At some of the busiest airports in the world, where security scanners search for bombs, weapons, and drugs, millions of pounds in criminal cash were quietly passing through unchecked. Well-dressed influencers, models, and office professionals boarded luxury business class flights, dragging suitcases that looked ordinary but carried fortunes large enough to fund entire criminal empires. No violence was used, no threats were made, and no alarms were triggered. For nearly 2 years, this invisible pipeline moved over 100 million pounds from the UK to Dubai, exploiting trust, loopholes, and human confidence. What began as a flawless system built on silence and status eventually collapsed because of one mistake, one arrest, and one phone that revealed everything. This is the story of how luxury travel became a weapon, how ordinary people became couriers for organized crime, and how the masterminds behind one of Britain's largest cash smuggling networks finally exposed themselves.
The story begins not with violence or drugs, but with silence, routine, and luxury. At Heathrow Airport, 2 well-dressed women quietly checked in 7 large suitcases for a business-class flight to Dubai. Nothing about them looked suspicious. They had clean passports, return tickets, and calm body language. The luggage passed through scanners without any alarms. What no one at the airport realized was that inside those suitcases was nearly 2 million pounds in clean, vacuum-sealed cash. No weapons, no narcotics, just money. This moment was not an isolated event. It was part of a vast and carefully constructed system that would eventually move more than 100 million pounds out of the United Kingdom without detection. At the center of this system was a man few people had ever heard of, Abdullah Muhammad Ali bin Bayat al-Falasi. Al-Falasi was not a gangster in the traditional sense. He did not carry weapons, threaten rivals, or appear in police databases. He was soft-spoken, well-traveled, and carried a legitimate Dubai passport. His surname carried diplomatic weight in the UAE, giving him an added layer of protection and credibility. On New Year's Day 2020, Al-Falasi personally began transporting cash himself. Over the course of 10 flights, he moved close to 6 million pounds from the UK to Dubai. These early trips were a test phase. He observed airport procedures, customs behavior, and security gaps. He learned quickly that UK airport security was designed to stop bombs and weapons, not undeclared currency. Once he was confident, he scaled the operation rapidly. The business model was simple but highly effective. Criminal gangs in the UK, largely involved in drug trafficking, generated huge volumes of cash they could not deposit or spend without attracting attention. Al-Falasi offered a solution. For a fee of around 10%, he would move their money safely out of the UK, convert it into gold in Dubai, and return its value through clean channels. The risk for clients was minimal, and the profits were enormous. To give the operation a legitimate appearance, Al-Falasi registered a company called Organised Gold Trading. On paper, it was a gold business. In reality, it was a laundering front. Rather than continuing to fly himself, Al-Falasi built a courier network. He stayed in Dubai, minimizing his exposure, while others carried the physical risk. Flights were booked in business class to maximize baggage allowance and reduce scrutiny. Couriers were given forged authorization letters on Organised Gold Trading letterhead, claiming they were approved cash transporters. These documents looked official, complete with stamps and signatures. The couriers were instructed never to discuss details, never to keep phones, and never to ask questions beyond their role. By mid-2020, the network was operating at full capacity. Cash was collected from across the UK and transported to short-term rental flats in London. These flats were empty except for tables and counting machines. Trusted workers counted, bundled, and vacuum-sealed the money.
Each suitcase usually contained around 500,000 pounds. Coffee grounds, perfumes, and air fresheners were added to mask any scent. Clothes and toiletries were layered on top to create the appearance of normal travel luggage. The couriers themselves were carefully selected. They were not hardened criminals. They were influencers, ex-models, office workers, recruiters, and people with no criminal history. This was deliberate. Clean records meant fewer questions. Normal appearances meant blending in. They were promised fast money, luxury flights, and minimal risk. Many were told they were not carrying anything illegal, just company cash for business purposes. Some believed it. Others chose not to ask. One of the most important figures in the operation was Michelle Clark. Based in Dubai, Clark acted as the network's coordinator. She never carried cash herself. Instead, she handled logistics, communication, and recruitment. She booked flights, issued instructions, and controlled access to the network. All communication flowed through encrypted messages and a tightly managed WhatsApp group called Sunshine and Lollipops. Couriers were given burner phones for each trip and instructed to delete everything afterward. Clark's control ensured compartmentalization. Couriers rarely knew each other, and almost none knew Al-Falasi personally. For months, the system worked flawlessly. Millions moved through Heathrow, Gatwick, and Manchester without detection. The operation relied on one critical assumption, that no one would get caught. That assumption would prove false. On October 3, 2020, a single courier's arrest would begin to unravel the entire network and expose one of the largest cash smuggling operations the UK had ever seen.
On October 3, 2020, Tara Hanlon arrived at Heathrow Airport preparing to board a flight to Dubai. She was carrying 5 suitcases. Inside them was approximately 1.9 million pounds in vacuum-sealed cash. Hanlon was a recruitment manager from Leeds, not a criminal mastermind. She was traveling with Megan Reeves and claimed she believed the bags contained documents and personal items. This time, however, something went wrong. Border Force officers stopped her for questioning. Whether it was intuition, intelligence, or random selection, the decision to search her luggage changed everything. When officers opened the suitcases, the scale of the operation became immediately clear. The money was professionally packed, carefully concealed, and far beyond what any individual could plausibly explain. Hanlon was arrested on the spot. Her phone was seized, and with it came the first real insight into the operation. Messages revealed detailed instructions, flight histories, and references to previous trips. Investigators discovered that Hanlon had already transported millions before this failed attempt. The arrest triggered a quiet but extensive investigation by the National Crime Agency. Rather than shutting the network down immediately, they mapped it. Flight bookings, baggage records, phone data, and financial trails were slowly connected. At the center of many communications was Michelle Clark. Her messages were precise, professional, and unemotional. She provided packing instructions, timing schedules, and behavioral advice. Couriers were told exactly how to act at airports, what to say if questioned, and when to destroy phones. As investigators dug deeper, more couriers came into focus. Jovan, a former model, had completed multiple trips. She recruited her partner, Jonathan Johnson, an executive recruiter. Together, they moved nearly 3 million pounds. Amy Harrison played a dual role, sometimes carrying cash and sometimes assisting with planning. Beatrice Authy, a media professional, became increasingly involved, helping manage logistics for other couriers. Nicola Essen, older than most couriers, flew with an extraordinary 19 suitcases across several trips, carrying more than 6 million pounds. Each courier had the same story. They were offered easy money, told the risk was low, and reassured that no drugs or weapons were involved. Some admitted they suspected illegality, but convinced themselves it was a gray area. Others claimed ignorance.
The truth varied, but the outcome was the same. Every arrest provided investigators with more data. Phones revealed group chats, burner numbers, and links back to Clark and eventually Al-Falasi. One courier's mistake accelerated the collapse. Mohammed Ilyas lost a suitcase containing more than 400,000 pounds. The loss triggered internal panic. Communications intensified. Instructions became stricter. This sudden change in behavior caught investigators' attention. Soon after, Ilyas was arrested, adding yet another piece to the puzzle. By early 2021, arrests began happening one by one. Dean Cameron was caught at Heathrow with £1.3 million. Joe Larvin and Jonathan Johnson were arrested at Manchester in March 2022 after moving nearly £5 million between them. Each arrest confirmed the same pattern: business-class flights, multiple suitcases, forged documents, Dubai as the destination, Omnist gold trading as the cover. Despite the growing evidence, the mastermind remained out of reach. Al-Falasi stayed in Dubai, beyond immediate extradition. He continued to believe he was untouchable. That belief would ultimately lead him to make a critical mistake.
For months, Abdullah Al-Falasi remained safely in Dubai while his courier network collapsed around him. From the UAE, he monitored the situation, confident that his distance protected him. UK authorities had evidence, but without him on British soil, prosecution was stalled. Al-Falasi had built his operation on the belief that he would never need to return. In December 2021, that belief failed him. Al-Falasi traveled to London with his family for a personal visit. He stayed in a Belgravia apartment owned by relatives. There was no dramatic raid, no public spectacle. National Crime Agency officers arrested him quietly. 3 mobile phones were seized. Those phones contained everything investigators needed: courier identities, flight itineraries, packing lists, passport photographs, and direct communication with Michelle Clark. The final piece of the puzzle was in place. Charged with laundering more than £100 million, Al-Falasi pleaded guilty. The evidence was overwhelming. At Isleworth Crown Court in summer 2022, the judge described the operation as sophisticated, deliberate, and highly damaging. Al-Falasi was sentenced to 9 years and 7 months in prison. A confiscation order seized £2.5 million in assets, including luxury cars and expensive watches. Every recoverable asset was taken. The couriers faced varied outcomes. Some received prison sentences. Others received suspended sentences due to cooperation, lack of prior convictions, or limited involvement. Tara Handlin received 34 months. Beatrice Ali, one of the most involved couriers, received 42 months. Several others avoided prison but carried criminal records that would follow them for life. Michelle Clark remained in the UAE, barred from travel and still under investigation. The case exposed a major vulnerability in international travel security. Airports are designed to stop physical threats, not financial crime. The reliance on self-declaration for cash created a loophole that organized crime exploited on an industrial scale. The operation showed that modern money laundering does not always involve complex digital systems. Sometimes it is as simple as suitcases, confidence, and the assumption that no one is looking. In the end, the network collapsed not because of advanced technology, but because of human error. One arrest led to another. One phone revealed everything. The case stands as one of the largest cash smuggling operations in UK history, and a reminder that even the most carefully constructed criminal systems are vulnerable. The airports remained the same, but the illusion of invisibility was gone. If you're still here watching, thank you. Before you go, please subscribe to our channel, Dark Frame Stories, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another real-life mystery like this.